Jason Whitman sat on the edge of the mahogany bed, staring at his phone for the 100th time that night. The illuminated screen read 11:47 p.m., and Madison still hadn't answered any of his calls. Her shift at the marketing firm ended at 5 o'clock, and she always texted him by 5:30, even when she went to the grocery store afterward. But tonight, there was nothing but silence and growing dread in his chest. He called her number again and heard it ring endlessly before going to voicemail. Her voice on the greeting sounded so warm, so full of life, and it made his stomach twist into knots. He stood up and walked to the window of their bedroom, looking out at the dark street below. The houses were all dark except for the occasional porch light, and the empty road mocked him with its quietness. Where could she be? Madison was reliable, methodical even, predictable in the way he loved. She wore her blonde hair in the same bun for work and always packed her lunch the night before. She wasn't the kind of woman to disappear without explanation, yet here he was, alone in their beautiful home with nothing but questions and fear. Jason returned to his phone and scrolled through his messages, looking for any clue he might have missed. That morning had been normal, he thought. They had coffee together, and she seemed happy, maybe a little distant, but he assumed it was work stress. She had mentioned a difficult client, and he remembered hugging her before she left for the office. He kissed the top of her head and told her he'd pick up groceries on his way home. She smiled and said that would be wonderful, but something flashed across her face, something he couldn't quite identify at the time. Was it sadness? Perhaps resignation? His mind began playing terrible scenarios like unwanted movies. He imagined her car in a ditch on the highway, or worse, an accident at an intersection. He thought about calling the hospitals, but something held him back. What if she was simply upset with him? What if she needed space and he started a dramatic search that would only embarrass them both? He tried to remember their last real conversation, not just the mundane exchanges about dinner plans and household tasks. When was the last time they actually talked about their dreams, their fears, their deepest thoughts? Jason walked downstairs to the kitchen and turned on the lights. The house felt cavernous without her presence. Her coffee mug still sat in the sink from this morning, and he picked it up, feeling the ceramic grow cold under his fingers. He had taken her for granted, he realized. Now, in this moment of not knowing where she was, he understood how much her existence meant to him, how her laugh could turn his worst day into something bearable, how her presence made this house a home. The silence stretched around him like something alive and suffocating. He texted her again, simply saying, "I love you, and I hope you're okay, but I need you to come home." The clock struck 4 in the morning, and Jason hadn't slept for a single moment. He lay in their bed with his phone clutched in his hand and his eyes fixed on the ceiling. His mind had cycled through every possible explanation for Madison's absence: anger, confusion, worry, and a strange guilt he couldn't quite name. He wondered if she was with someone else, but dismissed the thought immediately. Madison wasn't that kind of person. Or was she? Did he really know her at all after 7 years of marriage? At 4:17, his phone buzzed, and his heart nearly jumped out of his chest. A message from Madison. Finally, he thought. Relief flooded through him until he began reading the words on the screen. Her text was long and rambling, and it painted a picture of someone he didn't recognize. "Jason, I need you to understand that I never wanted to hurt you, but I've been suffocating in our life for so long." Her words appeared on his screen, one message after another. "I drive past that community center downtown, and I see women taking art classes, dancing classes, yoga, and I just keep driving home to our routine. I wake up, make your coffee, prepare for work, listen to you talk about your day, make dinner, and go to bed. And I'm slowly disappearing, Jason. Do you even remember the last time you asked me about my dreams? I had dreams before we got married. I wanted to paint. I wanted to travel. I wanted to feel alive. But somewhere between the mortgage payments and the dinner parties, I became invisible even to myself.
Jason felt his chest tighten as he read on. Madison continued explaining that she had taken a hotel room in the next town. She needed to be alone to think about who she was and what she wanted from life. She wasn't running away from him. She was running toward something, toward herself. She confessed that she loved him deeply, but love wasn't enough anymore if she had to keep losing pieces of herself in the process. The messages kept coming, each one more vulnerable than the last. She talked about how she would watch him read the newspaper on Sunday mornings and feel completely alone, even sitting beside him. She described the hollowness she felt when her birthday passed and he gave her jewelry when she had mentioned wanting experiences. She revealed that she had been secretly taking online art classes at night when he thought she was sleeping, and it was the only time she felt like herself. Jason sat up in bed, his eyes burning as the reality of her words washed over him. He had been so focused on being a good provider, on maintaining the stability of their marriage, that he had never once considered that Madison might be struggling, that she might have needs and desires separate from him. He realized with a sharp pain that he had loved her, but perhaps not truly seen her. He had built a life with her, but never asked if she wanted that life. Her final message said, "I love you, but right now I need to love myself first. I don't know what comes next, but I can't keep pretending everything is fine. When I figure out who I am and what I want, maybe we can build something real together, something that lets both of us breathe. Please don't be angry. I didn't leave because you did anything wrong. I left because I was disappearing, and I had to save myself."
Jason spent the entire morning reading and rereading Madison's messages. His hands trembled as he typed and deleted responses dozens of times. What could he possibly say? How could he defend himself when everything she wrote was true? He had been selfish in his own way, not through infidelity or cruelty, but through neglect, through assuming that his love alone was enough. By noon, he made a decision. He couldn't force Madison to come home, and he realized now that home wasn't what she needed. Right now, she needed freedom, and he needed to understand what that meant for both of them. He called her, and this time she answered. Her voice was cautious and tired. "Hi," she said, and the single word carried so much weight. "Hi, Madison. I read everything you wrote." He paused, searching for the right words. "I owe you an apology, not because you're wrong, but because I've been so blind. I didn't realize how unhappy you were because I wasn't looking. I was comfortable, and I mistook that for happiness. I mistook you being quiet with you being content." On the other end of the line, he heard Madison breathing heavily, trying to control her emotions. "I don't want you to feel guilty, Jason," she said. "Your love was real, but love sometimes isn't enough when two people are on different paths. I needed to tell you these things face to face, but I was terrified of how you would react. I was scared you would convince me to stay and compromise myself again." "I won't do that," Jason said firmly. "I want you to figure out who Madison is when she's not trying to be my perfect wife. I want you to take those art classes. I want you to travel. I want you to paint and to dream and to feel alive again. Because losing you these past hours showed me that I don't want to live in a world where you're just going through the motions with me." They talked for hours that morning, not about fixing things, but about understanding them. Madison slowly opened up about the pain of feeling overlooked, and Jason finally truly listened. He didn't interrupt or defend himself. He simply heard her and acknowledged the ways he had failed to see her. For the first time in their marriage, they were having a real conversation, not about logistics or plans, but about the deepest parts of their hearts. When they hung up, Jason felt something shift inside him. It wasn't relief exactly, and it wasn't despair either. It was acceptance. He accepted that love required more than presence. It required attention, intention, and the willingness to see another person in their entirety.
Madison would stay away for now, and he would let her. And when she returned, which he believed she would, it would be because they both chose to build something different, something honest. He went to his computer and researched art galleries and travel destinations. He opened a journal and began writing letters to Madison, not to convince her to come home, but to show her that he understood her better now. He realized that the greatest gift he could give her wasn't control or comfort, it was freedom and support for the person she was becoming.
2 weeks passed, and Jason transformed their home into a reflection of his new understanding of Madison. He cleared out the spare bedroom and painted it a soft cream color. Then he set up supplies for her, an easel, canvases, paintbrushes, and sketchbooks in every color imaginable. He hung inspirational quotes on the walls and created a space that was entirely hers, a sanctuary where she could explore her creativity without judgment. He sent her photos of what he had done, and she responded with a message that simply said, "I can't believe you did this for me." Madison began visiting the house on weekends, at first just for a few hours. Then she stayed longer, bringing her paintings and sketches to show him. He marveled at her talent, at the way she captured light and emotion on canvas. He saw landscapes she had imagined, places she wanted to visit, and self-portraits where she was beginning to recognize herself again. They would sit in her studio for hours, talking about everything from philosophy to dreams to the future. They made love again, but it was different now. It was deliberate and passionate rather than routine. They moved slowly through each moment, savoring each touch as if discovering each other for the first time. Jason made changes to his own life as well. He realized that he too had been sleepwalking through existence. He had always wanted to learn music, and he began taking guitar lessons. He joined a hiking group and discovered a love for nature that had been dormant inside him. He started reading philosophy and attending art exhibitions with Madison. They became partners in exploration rather than two people sharing a house. One night, as they sat in Madison's studio, surrounded by her paintings, she took his hand and said, "Jason, I want to come home, but I need you to understand that coming home doesn't mean going back to what we were. It means moving forward to who we are becoming. I don't want our marriage to be a cage for either of us. I want it to be a launch pad for our dreams." Jason pulled her close and, with tears in his eyes, responded, "I understand that now, Madison. When you left, it felt like the end of everything. But now I see it was actually the beginning. You gave us both a chance to wake up, to be honest with each other, to choose this marriage every single day instead of just defaulting into it. I don't want to be the husband who ignores his wife. I want to be the man who celebrates her, sees her, and grows alongside her." They decided together that Madison would officially move back, but with agreements that would protect both of them. They established time for individual pursuits and time for togetherness. They promised to have real conversations weekly to check in emotionally and not just logistically. They agreed to travel at least twice a year to feed Madison's wanderlust, and they planned to renovate their home together, creating spaces that reflected both their personalities and dreams. The night before she moved back, Madison showed him a painting she had been working on for days. It was a portrait of the two of them, but not as they were before. It was raw and real, showing the cracks and the light simultaneously. It showed two people holding each other, not out of obligation, but out of choice and love. Jason wept openly when he saw it, because he finally understood the depth of what Madison had been trying to communicate all along. 6 months later, Jason and Madison stood in their newly renovated home. The living room now had one wall dedicated to her art, a rotating gallery of her paintings and sketches. The study contained his guitar and a bookshelf filled with books they were reading together. The bedroom was warm and intimate, a space where they both felt safe and seen. Their home had become a reflection of their journey, a physical manifestation of their commitment to building something real. Madison had transitioned to freelance design work, which allowed her flexibility to paint in the mornings and evenings. She had even sold 3 paintings to a local gallery and was planning her first exhibition for the following spring. Jason had become quite skilled at guitar, and they often spent evenings with him playing while she sketched. They had visited 3 new countries in the past 6 months, and each trip deepened their connection as they experienced the world together, rather than being 2 separate people under one roof. But the real transformation happened in the quiet moments. One evening, as they prepared dinner together, Madison suddenly stopped and hugged him from behind, laughing and said, "Do you remember that night when I didn't come home, when you thought your world was ending?" Jason turned around and pulled her face to his. "I do," he said. "It was the scariest night of my life." "Well, it was the bravest night of mine," Madison said softly, "and I think we both needed it. I needed to prove to myself that I could choose my own happiness, and you needed to learn that love means letting go sometimes. Love isn't about possession or control. It's about creating space for each other to grow." They held each other as the sun set outside, casting golden light through their windows. Jason realized that their marriage hadn't been saved by grand gestures or tearful reunions. It had been saved by honest conversation, by the willingness to be vulnerable, and by the courage to change. Madison received a text from her friend inviting her to a women entrepreneurs networking event, and without hesitation, she said yes. She asked Jason if he wanted to come, and he surprised himself by saying no, but encouraged her to go and tell him all about it. She kissed him and with genuine joy said, "I love how proud you are of me and how genuinely happy you are for my success." Jason watched her leave that evening and felt none of the old anxiety that used to accompany her independence. Instead, he felt pride and love and gratitude that she had fought for their marriage by first fighting for herself. He spent the evening reading and journaling, reflecting on how their crisis had become their catalyst. He thought about how many couples never have that moment of reckoning, how many people sleepwalk through their relationships until it's too late. When Madison returned home that night, she was glowing with excitement. She described the event, the connections she had made, and an opportunity that might lead to her designing packaging for sustainable fashion brands. Jason listened with genuine interest, asking questions and celebrating with her. They made love that night with a passion and presence that felt new, even though it was familiar. It was the love of 2 whole people choosing each other every single day, rather than the love of 2 half people desperately clinging to comfort. As they lay in bed afterward, Madison whispered, "I never thought that night of disappearing would lead us here, to this place where I feel so seen and so loved for who I really am. And I never thought losing you temporarily would teach me how to truly love you," Jason responded. "I spent so long trying to keep you that I never realized I needed to let you soar. The greatest gift you gave me that night wasn't just coming back, it was showing me that real love requires constant choice, constant attention, and constant growth." They fell asleep holding each other, knowing that their journey was far from over, but believing now that whatever came next, they would face it together, as 2 people who had learned the most important lesson. Love isn't about finding someone to complete you, it's about finding someone you want to grow with, someone you choose to see, and someone who chooses to see you in return. Their marriage had been tested by silence and absence, and had emerged stronger because they had finally learned how to truly speak and truly listen.